Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Growth Center, where we discuss all things growth. Today, we are concluding the Pain in the Soil series. Pain in the Soil was a book that I wrote about overcoming the process of trauma. The book is actually titled fully Pain in the Soil Growing from Pain into Purpose. And I wrote this book to grow from the trauma that was going on in my life, and I detailed chapter by chapter how I did that, my journey in doing that. And my reason for doing so is because when I realized that I truly needed to heal, I couldn't find anything that really spoke to my heart. I looked for videos, I looked for books, podcasts, anything, but I never quite found the thing that spoke to my heart. And I really pray in this work and writing the book and doing these videos that someone else has found in my videos or in my book what they are looking for to start their process of healing, to start their very own journey. This was a very exciting series to do, and when I tell you I felt every last chapter from the beginning, from seeds, when the seeds of trauma are sown into our lives. I talked about the seed of trauma that was sown into my life years ago. And even as an adult, you have a choice on what you let get embedded into your soul. But seeds can be planted even well into adulthood that make your soul bitter, that make you hostile. We talked about that in chapter 2, video 2, hostile soil. The way you internalize different things. And we went on to branches of trauma, and that's how the outward product, pretty much. So when you're hostile on the inside and the things that you send out because of that seed of trauma that's planted in your life. Now, we talked about, after branches of trauma, we talked about faith and how much it takes to become whole again. We talked about how really the amount of faith it takes is that of a mustard seed. We went on to discuss being amended, changed deep down on the inside, and that's where I really detailed how I began to walk with the Lord and what I did. And we talked about forgiveness, how forgiveness is just another branch of trauma that you have to allow to be pruned away. We spoke about bitterness. We spoke about faith without works. We spoke about even a season of dormancy, what to do in that season of nothing, where maybe some relationships have become strained, and maybe some relationships are gone. Some relationships were discontinued because of who you are changing from your healing. We went on to purpose. Purpose is something that you discover when you actually become in relationship with the Lord. Through deeper relationship comes revelation. And once you get that revelation, what you do with it, that's faith without works, being a good steward over that revelation. And finally, fruitful. Fruitful is walking abundantly, walking in an abundance of life and being happy, even though things are going to always come. In this life, there's always going to be things that come at us. But when we have that abundance of fruit in us and walking through this purpose, walking through this process fully really helps you get that abundance of fruit. When you have that, you can handle anything that comes your way. The Lord gives you strength, and you can handle it when you have that fruit, when you've healed, when you've accepted the Holy Spirit into your life. You are in a place of fruitfulness. And today we concluded, and I'd like to talk about Paul, the Apostle Paul, and his thorn. Very briefly, I discuss it further and go into detail in the book, in the conclusion in the book, but the Apostle Paul wrote of a thorn in his side, a pain in his side. And he doesn't say exactly what it was, what the pain was, whether it was a legit thorn in his side, whether it was emotional, whether it was mental. But he talks about this great pain and how he begged the Lord to take it away from him, and the Lord wouldn't. It was just his thorn, but he also said that even though he didn't detail exactly what the thorn stood for or whether it was a real thorn, he said that it kept him humble before the Lord. It kept him close to the Lord. And I want you to really get that from this series, that the things that happen to us, the seeds of trauma that are planted, if it keeps you to the Lord, like it keeps you humble, and it lets you know that when you get into your place of fruitfulness, you couldn't have done it without him. That's what your thorns do. Your thorns, also known as your seeds of trauma, they let you know when you look back at the beginning, at that very first chapter, and it's okay, seeds of trauma. I couldn't have got all the way to producing good fruit, not rotten fruit that we talked about, you know, in hostile soil, not the rotted branches we talked about that has to be pruned away. But when you're producing fruit and abundance of it, and goodness, patience, love, kindness, when you're in that place, you realize that you didn't get there by yourself. You needed the help of the Lord. And that's exactly what our thorns or seeds of trauma remind us. They remind us that we are not just that great, that where we are overcomers all by ourselves. No, we stay with the Lord. And when you stay humble and you stay with the Lord, you can get through all things. In the chapter Faith Without Works, I detail some of the troubles that I had when I got close with the Lord and the revelation that he gave me of what he wanted to do in my life. Now, the work that I had to put in it. I wrote about how I got through that and the things that I had to do, how I had to honor my time, measure my time. I wouldn't have been able to do any of that had it not been for the Lord. None of it. Even starting at the seed of trauma, I would have never graduated to that point where I could actually put in the work to write a book and make videos chapter by chapter if it wasn't for the Lord. So my thorns taught me that. So I'm grateful for my thorns. In this conclusion, I go more into detail, but I would like to read a little bit from the conclusion. I do have a copy of my manuscript, and I just want to read a little bit on how I concluded the actual book. I stand as a living testimony that this process from pain to purpose is the most critical you will ever undergo. I can attest that the enemy did not want me to know God as I do. I was given every reason why I didn't need to surrender through the trauma and long-term effects, the I'm self-made babble that I used to believe. But the mustard seed of faith down on the inside is all it took. Now, all the riches in the world cannot compare to the joy of knowing the Lord as the ultimate healer and provider. I pray this book has been as much of a blessing to you reading as much as it was for me writing. May this process aid you in becoming as the tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth fruit in abundance. Then that last line came from Psalms 1 and 3. I'm reading from the King James Version. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that bringeth forth fruit in his seasons. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. I love this scripture because when you are like a tree planted by the rivers of water, you are rooted in the Lord. You are rooted in his presence. You're rooted in who he is, and whatsoever you do, whatever you put your hand to will prosper when you seek the kingdom first. When you seek the kingdom first and your first desire is to please the Lord and make sure that you do every assignment that he's given you on this earth, the stuff will come. I know I speak about the fruits of the Spirit, patience, goodness, but the fruits of the world. You know, the Lord didn't want us to just live in this world and have nothing. It's not, the spirit of poverty is not one that God gives us. He wants us to live abundantly, but first you have to seek that fruit first. The fruit of the Spirit, that patience, that love, that kindness. When you seek that first, all things will come to you, but you have to seek the Lord first. And the way that you seek the Lord first is you take that stuff that was planted in you, maybe recently, maybe long ago, and you give it to him, and you let him have it, and you let him do that work from the inside out, and you will be as that tree planted by the water. I thank you so much if you went through this entire series with me. I thank you for tuning in for chapter after chapter. I do not have a release date yet for the book. The book is titled, once again, Pain in the Soil, Growing from Pain into Purpose. I'm looking at the springtime, but as soon as I get a release date for it, I will post that release date instead of the coming soon that you've been seeing in all of my videos. I would really love your support. I do give away a lot of gems in these videos, but I also go into even more depth in the book. So if you get a chance, please subscribe, stay plugged in. Even though the series is done, I'm going to create even more videos just off day-to-day life. I know I want to make a video here soon about pressing forward towards the mark, because as I said, you know, life's troubles are not going to go away. Just because you're rooted in the Lord, the way you look at them, the way you deal with them is going to change. But the troubles are not going to stop, so you're going to have to press towards the mark. And I want to come and do a video about the pressing, how to press, the mindset to have in the press as you move forward. Maybe you're waiting on some things that the Lord has promised you. Maybe you've done the work and you're waiting on, okay, God, I've done the work. I've done what you told me to do. Now what? We're going to talk about the press. I'll actually do that video next. So please stay tuned. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to be doing more videos outside of this series, but this concludes the Pain in the Soil series. Once again, thank you so much. Let's discuss in the comments, how did these videos bless you? I really hope they did. What new insights did you have? How likely are you to share this series with someone else? How likely are you to purchase the book when it comes out? As always, thank you so much. I pray you got a lot out of it. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.